Once a man lives alone long enough, he notices something most people never talk about. How much of his life was built around staying busy so he wouldn't have to face himself. He eats, washes the plate, and doesn't reach for his phone to see if he still matters to someone or if tonight needs an explanation. There's no breakup, no argument, no dramatic ending. He's alone, and for the first time, nothing is missing. Not tonight. And that's when you notice it. What used to feel uncomfortable now feels unnecessary. And somewhere along the way, something subtle but profound begins to change in how he sees women. Living alone long enough, you stop quietly hoping a woman will rescue you from loneliness. That single shift changes what he notices and what he refuses to excuse. Women who are attractive, complicated, and fully responsible for their own lives. And a kind of peace that matters more than intensity. You stop asking who she is and start asking what she does to your peace. The first shift solitude forces. Most men never see reality clearly because they stay busy escaping themselves. At some point, many men stop seeing women as they are. They see ideas, not people. A lot of what you called love was really relief, not because she was perfect, but because her presence kept you from feeling replaceable. That isn't romance, it's fear looking for somewhere to land. The moment you stop reacting to reduce anxiety, clarity starts returning. Once the fantasy drops, respect gets simpler. You stop asking her to carry what you refuse to face. A man who has spent time alone starts to notice something hard to ignore. Many of his past conflicts weren't really about the women. They were about the roles he assigned to her. So he removes the script. Most men don't suffer from reality. They suffer from the story they keep replaying. Seneca once wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Expectations drop, standards rise. He stops forcing chemistry where alignment doesn't exist. He sees clearly because the need is gone. No woman exists to pull him out of his own mess. Because of that, when he chooses connection, he stands above the problem instead of being trapped inside it. That's why their actions get quieter, and their decisions stop needing approval. What changes next isn't how he sees women, it's how he shows up when no one is trying to hold him. Neediness fades, respect takes its place. There is a kind of confidence that only shows up after neediness leaves. When a man lives alone long enough, he starts seeing something that used to be invisible to him. Much of what he called love was really an attempt to fill what felt missing inside him. He wanted reassurance, to finally feel chosen enough to relax. Neediness wears a nice suit. It calls itself romance. It shows up as rushing closeness and tolerating small disrespect, then calling it patience. A man can mistake all of that for devotion. Most men think they've moved past neediness until it shows up in quieter ways. He realizes he doesn't need an audience to feel complete. He can sit through a bad mood without reaching for someone to fix it. His days settle into routines that keep him steady, even on ordinary nights. His words no longer reach for reassurance. And when that habit ends, something solid replaces it. Respect starts internally, and that changes how safe every relationship feels. He stops performing for closeness. He shows up calm, clear, and consistent. He can appreciate a woman without clinging to her. A man who does not need a woman is easier to be around emotionally. He doesn't pressure or punish. He stays steady. When interest is real, it does not need to grab. It can simply stand. I learned this the hard way. In a season I do not romanticize. There was a night I caught myself rereading a message like it was a medical report, hunting for reassurance and punctuation. My mentor once looked at me and said, almost bored, "If your peace can be changed by a notification, You do not want love. You want anesthesia. Let that land. When you stop needing, you stop bending just to keep someone from leaving. The version of neediness that costs men the most doesn't look desperate. It looks calm, reasonable, and emotionally mature. Rejection stops feeling like a courtroom verdict. It becomes information. Not my person, not my path, no collapse required. And something else changes too. He stops trying to fix women, rescue them, or manage their emotions so he can feel important. He lets them be whole people, capable of choice, capable of responsibility, capable of their own direction. Respect replaces control, and curiosity takes the place of insecurity. A man who governs himself stops trying to govern someone else, and that creates a rare dynamic. Two adults choosing each other freely, not gripping each other out of fear. I'm steady on my own. I stay only where calm is mutual. When things that felt exciting start draining you. When a man is emotionally entangled, everything feels urgent. A delayed reply starts to feel loaded. A short answer lands cold. A small disagreement feels like a warning sign. Nothing big has happened, but his body reacts like something just broke. Living alone long enough changes that reaction, not because he stops caring, but because he stops treating every moment like an emergency. I remember a time when one unresolved moment could ruin my entire evening. I would sit there, pretending I was fine, telling myself it didn't matter. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe this is how it ends. He stops reacting on impulse and starts watching what repeats itself. Before, he confused unpredictability with depth. If it felt unstable, he called it passion. If it felt calm, he assumed something was missing. Anything that only feels alive when it's unstable is quietly training you to confuse stress with connection. Not just how do I feel right now, but how this usually unfolds. He starts noticing who stays steady when things get tense, who quietly turns small moments into tests, who disappears, then returns as if nothing happened. Not colder, just more honest. He stops getting carried away by charm, chemistry, or a compelling backstory. It teaches him one skill that changes everything. He waits. Nothing collapses. The urgency was never coming from her. It was coming from inside you. And once you see that, calm stops being boring. It becomes control. You don't react to win a moment. You respond to protect your life. And once he learns this, drama loses its shine. The emotional roller coaster stops feeling exciting. It starts feeling inefficient. Peace, the thing he once called boring, starts feeling expensive. Not flashy, just reliable. This doesn't make him distant. It makes him accurate. He can enjoy flirtation without losing clarity. He can appreciate vulnerability without turning it into a responsibility. He can be present without volunteering to carry emotional weight that isn't his. He used to confuse intensity with intimacy because intensity kept him distracted. Once that distraction fades, things become obvious. Some connections feel good only when they're dramatic. Some fall apart the moment calm enters the room. When a man sees that clearly, chaos stops seducing him. He stops trading stability for adrenaline. Confusion no longer passes as chemistry. He doesn't choose differently because he's afraid. He chooses differently because he can finally see. And once a man reaches that point, there's a question guiding every decision. Does this add steadiness to my life? Or does it keep pulling me back into the same familiar mess? The moment calm starts to feel necessary, your old life quietly becomes impossible. Calm replaces excitement. There comes a point when a man finally admits the truth. Excitement is expensive. It steals his focus. It leaves him jumpy for no good reason. When he was younger, he called that feeling passion. Late nights, unstable moods, the constant sense that something might blow up or fall apart. He paid the price willingly, thinking intensity meant depth. Mornings stopped feeling rushed. Evenings stopped carrying hidden tension. There is no emotional weather report to check before going to bed. A man once said, "I used to think butterflies were a good sign. Now I realize they were just my nervous system panicking." That line stuck. What once felt intense now reads like a warning he ignored when he was younger. A conversation that leaves him uneasy, second-guessing himself, or replaying words in his head is no longer brushed off. He does not label it mysterious or exciting anymore. He calls it what it is, a mismatch. That does not mean he wants a dull life. It means he prefers regulation over chaos. It's the ability to see a dramatic conflict forming and choose to walk away, not because you're afraid, but because you know the value of your time. I remember sitting across from someone who talked nonstop, jumped topics every minute, and turned small disagreements into tests. At 25, I would have leaned in harder. At 45, I finished my coffee and thought, this would cost me 3 quiet evenings a week. I could already see myself replaying that table conversation later, and I knew I did not want that life again. That was enough information. If you're choosing steadiness over cheap intensity, subscribe. This channel is where men sharpen clarity without the noise. Now the questions that matter are simpler and more practical. Can silence exist without tension? Can disagreement pass without punishment? This shift sharpens his boundaries, not because he wants control, but because he knows how long it took to build his internal stability. He does not negotiate his peace in small pieces. He does not chase sparks just to avoid boredom. His presence feels steady, and people notice, even if they cannot explain why. Peace in this stage of life is not passive. It is a decision. He chooses steadiness, and he stops apologizing for it. Love should widen his life, not shake it. Attraction should feel like clarity, not confusion. And once it becomes the standard, everything else has to rise to meet it. Calm without boundaries slowly turns into self-erasure. Empathy without self-erasure. He doesn't become colder, he becomes harder to confuse. Decisions get made quietly without asking for permission. From the outside, people might say he feels distant. In reality, he's no longer reacting to every emotion like it's an emergency. If a woman was upset, he felt like it was his job to fix it. Real empathy doesn't erase a man. Empathy isn't about carrying someone. It's about not abandoning yourself. While you care, it stands beside someone and trusts them to stand too. I remember sitting across from someone who was clearly having a bad week. She talked, I nodded. I offered solutions no one asked for, not because they helped, but because silence made me feel useless. He listens without rushing in, because stepping in too fast can quietly tell her that he doesn't believe she can carry her own pain. He stays present without taking ownership of feelings that aren't his. He learns that emotions can be present without needing a response. Don't be the man who confuses urgency with care just so he can feel needed. That man burns himself down and calls it love. Be the lighthouse. You stand firm and you don't move an inch just to chase waves crashing in the dark. You don't abandon your position to prove you care. You stay where you are and let your steadiness guide who comes close. That someone can be hurting without him being the cause. A man who hasn't lived alone long enough hears emotion and panics. A man who hears emotion and stays present. He doesn't rush in with comfort just to feel useful. And he doesn't disappear the moment things get uncomfortable. He stays without shrinking. That's presence, without apologizing for emotions he didn't create. There's a confidence in that. It's the difference between listening and becoming someone's emotional storage unit. One is connection. The other is unpaid overtime. Respect says, I believe you can walk through this, and I'll stay close without taking the wheel. He also turns this clarity inward. He stops confusing emotional struggle with depth. Once he sees how pain is used to steer outcomes, he quietly removes himself from the pattern. Not out of cruelty, out of honesty. This kind of empathy allows real closeness. Not two people leaning on each other so neither falls, but two people standing side by side choosing to walk together. Once a man learns this, closeness stops pulling him off balance and starts being built on mutual respect instead of sacrifice. And that choice is where most men finally realize how different love feels without urgency. When love stops feeling urgent, there is a moment in a man's life when attraction stops pulling him forward and starts exposing what he's been avoiding. Just a quiet pause where he notices himself first. Earlier in life, wanting someone often came with tension, the kind that makes you check your phone one more time before sleeping. I remember a time when interest alone was enough for me to say yes. If there was chemistry, I leaned in. And if things felt shaky, I told myself that was just part of passion. It wasn't. It was me ignoring early warnings because being wanted felt good. The more urgent it felt, the less grounded I became. Urgency is not desire. When a man has lived long enough without needing someone to fill the space in his life, desire changes shape. He doesn't just ask, do I want her? He asks, does this fit the life I already know how to maintain? Can disagreements happen without emotional penalties being handed out afterward? This doesn't make love dull. It makes it honest. There's a confidence that comes from knowing you can walk away, even when desire is present. Not because you're afraid of closeness, but because you're no longer willing to trade stability for excitement. A man at this stage doesn't chase uncertainty. He's already lived the version of life where longing was mistaken for meaning. When he chooses a woman now, it isn't because silence feels heavy. It's because her presence genuinely improves a life that already works. She doesn't feel responsible for keeping him centered. She feels wanted, not required, chosen, not leaned on. It creates a kind of closeness that doesn't rely on intensity to survive. There's less drama, but more trust. Love like this doesn't rush. It doesn't demand proof. It feels like recognition. He no longer needs love to escape himself. When a man reaches this point, love no longer threatens his freedom. It becomes an expression of it. This is the strength a man builds after living alone long enough. Not to escape life, but to finally stand inside it. He learns that attraction without stability is a warning, and care without boundaries always costs him himself. That's why men who've lived alone long enough stop moving the way they used to. They walk away without resentment and commit without fear. When they offer love now, it isn't urgent or demanding. It's chosen. And that choice changes what they accept and what they refuse to chase. If this perspective stayed with you, don't let it pass quietly. Subscribe to Move or Die Stoic. This is where we sharpen clarity, protect our peace, and choose deliberately. Until next time, don't chase peace. Build a life that doesn't disturb it. Calm didn't make your life smaller. It gave you the leverage to choose what stays. And when love appears, let it meet you there.